promise not to lie in not one of these verses.
A year ago around this time, I actually got baptized at my church, and it's been a whirlwind. The time leading up to that, I knew like I needed to get back to church when Micaiah's mother and I were still like together just around, well, even before December of 2022. I believe even like in that fall when we moved to our second apartment at the time, we discussed, wanting to be in church and wanting to even do it for our daughter so she'd be able to like be in church and stuff like that. And we discussed her being baptized and stuff. And that's something that we agreed on. So as things got closer and we got to like our big like the epilogue that it was our relationship, friendship, and marriage, we it was like I felt myself leading up to even that, knowing that I was about to go back to church. I grew up in the church. Church is nothing new to me. God is nothing new to me. God's been with me my entire career. Every impossible goal, task, anything that I've achieved, I've always given that to God first and foremost, and like that's always been beyond. So in my gut, in my spirit, it's like knowing and needing to get back to church. Not just, you don't do things just for the people that are around you and that are in your life. You got to do stuff for you. And even if that's like, if it's a big thing and it may sound selfish, but to be able to do that thing for you is what leads to full realization, for stepping into purpose, for accountability, for like ownership of whatever that thing is. So I knew I needed to go back for me. So on we had a little thing in like December 2022 where like we weren't going to be together anymore, but we were still living together through on and off through January. She's still staying at our apartment. But January 1st, I went to the church. First time, January 1st was also a Sunday. And I knew it when I was there. Like, yeah, like this is it. This is the place. The same atmosphere that I grew up in church with. And it's not just about the church and about the people. It's about the spirit of God that's there. And for me, I felt the same way that it was when I was growing up in church. I was like my daughter's age or younger, and then older even. But my church that I grew up in, New Heritage Cathedral, which now is called Chicago Embassy. It was needed. It was a much needed shift and change. Like I said, God has always been in my life. I'm no stranger to God. God's no stranger to me. But when I say God's always been in my life, he has, but I've literally majorly welcomed it in terms of my career and my passion, because I knew, as people have seen me say, I've been arts, music, and entertainment since I was 7. So for like 22 years now, I've been in this realm and in this world, and I knew what my path was. I knew what my destiny was. When I turned 13, I made my vow never to give up on my music. And part of that was because I knew this is the path that God put me on. This was my purpose. And even like CUNA, like, I knew her. When I made that vow, that was one of the years we were in school together. So she's one of the people put in my path. That's why that's part of why you see her in a lot of things that happen. It's not just because I picked her, she earns it. Like, I don't do anything unless it's earned. But she's also covered with an anointing, just as I am, to be in this and flourish. One of my birthdays, I made a post on Instagram, and I was saying, like, talking about, being in this and everything like that. And, like, yes, this is my journey, but I am aware that just because this is my journey, it's not just my journey alone. It's not just my story. There are others that's involved in every aspect and everything that happens with the affiliation, with these events, everything. And I give credit where credit is due, as the premise of episode 5 from last season. I do give credit where credit is due, and I do recognize those who play parts, heavy parts, and things that happen and what's going on here. And all of that, it wouldn't be a thing without, God putting me on this path. So about a year ago around this time, I was baptized, and after that, my universe, like, changed. Like, I realized a lot of things. I realized, and this was about, I believe this was maybe about the same time or a year prior to, a lot of my dreams and things were coming true. I had already achieved all my actual goals that I like made for myself when I was at a young age. But by the time I was like 27, but then not right after I turned 27, all my dreams, the things that I actually identify as dreams of mine, began to come true. And it's been phenomenal. So after being baptized, there was my spirit was very, and is very sensitive. It always have been, but it was more like very like unnerved. And I picked up on like tons of things after I got baptized. My discernment like increased tenfold in many cases and aspects. And it's been, it's not easy to do what we do and not come off a certain way. Even before now, growing up, a lot of people saw me as arrogant, but now that I'm older, there are like more people than who would say that back then, who say that they recognize the wisdom in me, and that's been an amazing, beautiful compliment. Most time, things that you will hear me say about myself, majority of the things that I state is not from me. It's not my thought process or how I see myself. It's a lot of it is how others perceive me, how they've said things about me. Now, don't get me wrong, I know who I am. I just say those things because I'm like, hey, they said this thing, and this was a great compliment. If I'm like, I'm an asshole, that comes from me. I said that. Any negative connotation most likely comes from me, unless you hear from someone who no longer is in my vicinity. Then yeah, figure out why. And it's funny because I was just one of our board members I was just talking to, and she made a statement about how she and I both don't give second chances. And I was like, what? And then she said, like, that's something I said like a while back, and I was like, I don't know, like, that's interesting, because I know now that's not really the case. Like, and then even considering the past, throughout that marriage that I was in, like, whew, chances off the charts, but can't even count on two hands, toes too. But then I realized, because that's not even that feeling, or even if I said that like years ago, that feeling or thought process or mentality or whatever, and it's not there. Like, when she said it, I couldn't even identify with it. And then I even got in going into her and talking about, well, maybe it's changed since I was baptized, because I have no identification with that ideal or concept at all. Now I'm not a fool. My time is very valuable and will not be wasted on whether it be personal or business. If you ain't giving your all, why are you here? It's that simple, and that applies for a lot of different aspects. But with this thing that we do in arts, music, and entertainment, you gotta give your all. Not even just for yourself, especially if you're in the midst of something that set out to be an inclusion with others, or other people being a part of, then it's best to step up or step aside. In the affiliation, we present a platform different than a lot of these others. I mean, everybody can do events, cool, but we were one of the first ones after COVID to start back up doing events. And it's morphed a lot. Essentially, the affiliation is a training ground in its core, because I stated my years of being in this, decades plus. But I've learned things, I've seen things, I watch things, I develop skills, I pay attention, and I'm very detail oriented. If you've seen me perform, you notice the little things that I do. If you've sat and had a conversation with me, you can hear that even though it's a whirlwind at times, it's very purpose driven, focused, and thinking about all the different variables and variations of things. Sometimes it can be hard to keep up with for some people in conversations, because it's a lot of information. But information is power, and that's actually the age that we're in now. It's an information age. And I like to maintain an informative take on these different aspects. So we at the affiliation provide the platform for artists and bands and creators of all sorts to showcase and share their passion with others, not just a room full of people who also are trying to come and get on the microphone. We don't want a room full of artists. We want a room full of supporters. And that's what we've built here at the affiliation. We have support coming to these events to see these artists, just these artists, because that's who we promote. We promote the artists, we promote the bands, we promote the organizations. Even on our website, we promote other businesses on our website as well. And not just say, hey, we know these people over here. Yeah, go. No, like, these other businesses are on our website. They live on our website. Rented and reserve their spots on our website so that they can also be a part of this passion push, the passion mission, the purpose of passion. And that's what we're about. Passion is a currency to me. Passion is a currency. And that is the only realm in which that I choose to deal in, is passion. If you don't have passion, you can't work with me. I don't care about how talented you are. I don't care about how skilled you are. I don't care how many years you got in the game. I don't care who you work with. Even I've worked with Anderson .Paak, like, but you won't see that on the site. You don't really see that paraded about. There's other names too, but that's not what this is. The fact of the matter is that I am about passion. That's all this is. And that's translated into the affiliation. I mean, rightfully so. But even in the in our events, and it took me a couple events, because we've been doing this since 2022 for even me to realize this, but like, in the midst of our events, the energy is different. I went with Cuna to a couple of events or whatever, and it's like the energy in those rooms are not anything like our events. It doesn't feel home. And I'm not saying this in sense of because it's not mine, I feel some weird way, I feel out of place. That's not it at all. Like, I could walk into the room, and me and Q have that effect. I think it's a Drake thing. We walk into the room and we command it. And like, we just draw eyes to us, like we are noticed. And it's an energy thing. And even when I was at that event with her, it's like it's a different energy. Like, people looking over their shoulder, people, like, everybody on edge for the most part, trying to have a good time, but on edge. And many people have come and said, there's even many videos of people actually stating on their own about how being at the affiliation events, you want to have a good time, and you know you will have a good time. You don't even got to do it drunk or high, or you could be completely sober, and you gonna have a good time. Like, it's enjoyable. Even if you're not up dancing and partying, you just sitting there, you still like have a good time. The energy is good. It's clean. It's pristine. Like, it's beautiful. And it took me a little bit to notice it myself, because Chicago, you do gotta look over your shoulder. So I went into it with that, but then I would notice and I would see other people, and I'm like, oh, hold on. This energy is unlike anything that I've experienced. And apparently it wasn't just me who was feeling that way. There were others who felt that way. And that is a beautiful thing. And I don't think it's just me. It's not just, I'm not taking credit, like I'm the reason why that's the energy that's there. I think it does have a lot to do with just the mission. Everyone who's ever done an event for the more than one event with us, for the most part, understands the mission that's at hand. We're not trying to just go about, we're going to change the industry. That's not really it. But to be able to change the world of one person, that's the mission. To be able to speak to someone through your passion, and we've had events where audience members have been allotted to share their testimonies at our show about whatever they seen there has done for them. And that has been so like gratifying. Like, I'm not gonna cry. I'm gonna try not to cry. But it's been I'm the man with Mr. Faber, our teacher at Drake, 8th grade teacher. He will call me the man with words. Right now, I have no words to describe how that makes me feel. But it's amazing, for lack of better terms. And I appreciate that, personally. Because that was always my prayer as a child, for my music to help change the world, to help heal the world. And as I got older, I began to realize that mission isn't about my music actually being out mainstream on the charts and stuff like that. I mean, obviously, that who wouldn't want that? But it's bigger picture than just that. And the mission being able to change or heal the world of one person at a time. You just heal that person's world. That is the mission. That's the mission. And I'm blessed and fortunate to be able to do so. And having the vision to make it happen. It's been truly an honor and a privilege and a blessing to be in the spot that I'm in, whether I created it or not. Just the fact that it's something that's available and out here for artists like myself, for passionate creatures like myself, to be able to do. This episode wasn't even supposed to be about any of this originally. But that's the point of it. It's the madness of it. And in the madness, you find magic and you find miracles. And that's pretty much the sum of the affiliation, is magic and miracles. And music, of course. I thank God for everything that I've been presented with and given the opportunity to do. For all the artists that's been a part of everything that's been built, for all the bands, for even the band members, the board, and those who I've talked to in the midst of creating this stuff. Like, thank all of you. Truly. I know the affiliations, we've made posts about giving thanks and stuff like that and thanking people, but I want to go on record right here, live and in living color. It's a lot of colors. To say thank you. Truly. This is the 3rd year of the affiliation, I believe. And we're still like doing crazy shit. Like, this part of my brain right here just like, it's so much stuff on the horizon. And I can't wait for all of it to come to fruition. And you won't want to miss a single solitary second of what's coming next.